I'm sure that most of you are familiar with this website here. This is Google.com. I want to show you the difference between this site and our site. Google has a nice navigation bar at the top with a black background and white text. They have a search bar centered with the logo centered above it, these buttons below, this bottom navigation, and the personalized info up at the top right. Now we come back to our site, and you can see that it's just plain text. Everything is aligned to the left in plain black text. The only reason that it even looks decent is because of the great structure of this web page that we've made. Our text has some different sizes, and you can clearly see where there are breaks in the content. But I tend to doubt that you're going to see too many websites that look like this. The difference is that Google is using something called CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's used by pretty much all websites, and it controls the styling of the site. Just like HTML is in its 5th version, CSS is in its 3rd, which is why we call it CSS3. CSS3 added on a lot of new features, which actually make being a web developer easier than ever. CSS3 allows for a lot of really nice effects, which can be made very easily. HTML5 combined with CSS is enough to make a complete website with a very professional look. Back in Notepad, we're going to begin to add some styling to the page. Just like everything else, the styling for your website needs to go inside of a tag. As I said in earlier lessons, the body of the document contains the content which will be displayed, and the head contains information about the body. So now we have the content from the body. Let's start styling, which needs to go inside of the head. So we're going to make the tag right here in the head named Style. As always, since we open the style tag, we'll immediately close it. The way that CSS works is that you first select the element from the website that you wish to style, then you give it properties. I'm going to just put a few lines of code here, then we can review. We'll go slow here, line by line, on what you're looking at. It's really not too difficult to get. The first line says body. This is because we want to select the body tag. So now that we've selected the body tag, everything inside of the body tag down here will be affected by whatever we write next. Next, we make this open curly brace. And you can think of this almost in the same way as opening a tag, where here we selected the tag, now everything inside of the curly brace is the styling. So again, we select which tag we want to be styling, open the curly brace, and just like with tags, how it's good practice to immediately close it, we should immediately close the curly brace, and then add the information. So this first line here says width, 1100 px. So you can imagine that the word width means that we want to create a width for the selected tag, which is the body. Then the colon is almost like saying equals and telling the computer that the following information will be the width. So just like if you were measuring anything else in life, you need a value and a unit of measurement. So you might measure something in inches, miles, meters, kilometers, whatever the unit, you always need one. You can't just say to your friend, go 100 and then turn left. You need to tell him, go 100 feet, or meters, or whatever. So you have a value here which is 1100, and the unit of measurement is px, or pixels. Now computers recognize a lot of different types of measurement, and pixels is just one, but that's the one we're going to be using for now. So we have this complete statement, width, colon, or equals to, 1100 pixels. And then, to end the statement, we have a semicolon. Every CSS statement needs to end with a semicolon, so that the computer knows you've ended the statement. Our next statement inside of the body selection is background. So we're now selecting the background of the body, and we're making it equal. This odd-looking thing here, this is color. RGB stands for red, green, blue. So if you want to give something color, you need to write RGB, open parenthesis, then you're going to close the parenthesis, just like everything else, and then write 3 values on a scale of 0 to 255. I know it sounds odd, but that's just what it is. 0 would mean no color, and 255 would mean all color. So that would mean that a color with a value of RGB, open parenthesis, 000, close parenthesis, would be black. And if it were 255, 255, 255, it would be white. A number like 25500 means all red, no green, no blue. So it's just a plain red color. The color we've selected here is RGB 215, 215, 255, which should be close to a white, but with a little extra bluish. Then we always end the statement by writing a semicolon. So let's save this here and come back to the browser. Take a look at the text here. It comes all the way to the end of the screen, and when it reaches the end, it wraps to the next line. So let's refresh the page, and there's two differences in the web page. Firstly, it now has a slight blue color, and secondly, the text doesn't come to the edge anymore. Now, I have a fairly large screen that I'm looking at. If your computer has a smaller screen, like a netbook or a small laptop, the text which originally fit nicely no longer does. And that's why something called responsive design is almost a complete necessity when developing a website nowadays. Responsive design means that designing a website so that it responds to different screen sizes. It's a technology that's becoming more and more popular every day, and it is the future of designing a website. More and more people are using their phones or tablets to browse the internet, so that means your website needs to display nicely on those smaller devices, just as well as it needs to display on a large laptop or desktop computer, or even smart TVs, which are now becoming more popular. It's a bit too much to go into detail on how to make a responsive design website here, but I'll show you one very basic concept. Let's make a new line, and now type the word max-width, and now we need to set a maximum width for the body, so let's make that 95%. Just like pixels was a unit of measurement, percent is another unit. Since the body tag, which has been selected, is contained inside of your browser window, it will now have a width of 1100 pixels, but at a maximum of 95% of the total window size. So let's save and come back here into our browser. Now you refresh the page, and if you were on a larger screen, to begin with you might not notice a difference yet, but for those of you on a smaller screen, you will notice. If you're on a larger screen, watch what I'm about to do. I'm going to resize the window to be a little smaller, and now you can see that the text is starting to wrap just before the edge of the screen. This still isn't exactly what I want, though. I think it would look nicer if the entire body of the document was centered inside of this window. So let's come back inside of Notepad. Let's add one more line of code to the CSS for the body. It's going to say margin, auto, semicolon. And what that does is it sets up a margin on the left and right sides of the body to be automatically equal. Right now, you can see we have a large margin on the right side, and on the left side, it's practically against the edge of the window. When I refresh the page, it's now centered. This is now starting to look like a real web page. We'll continue with the styling of this document in the next video.